Then the word got out around town. And pretty soon this whole thing just caught on, and now the cabbies are just cheerleaders. Other people are doing this for them. So don't overlook this. If you can find folks that can do this for you, wow, what an opportunity. And of course, the whole reason that this works is that these people have credibility. And the reason they have credibility is because the definition of credibility is a combination of expertise and trustworthiness. That's what credibility is. I trust the person, therefore the data that they're sharing with me, I believe. That's credible. Now, what they bring to the game is, of course, trustworthiness. They have a following of people who trust them. The more we work with them, the more we increase their expertise, the better opinion leaders they become. And that's why they have always been the drivers in all human societies, and why indeed we need to work with them. Well, that's easy enough. How do you find them? Well, there are three methods. One of them I won't bore you with because it's too damn expensive and you haven't got the money. It's a research technique, which, yeah, you could afford, but I won't even go into it. It's quite long and complicated. It is a formal research technique, and indeed it has proven itself many times over to identify the opinion leaders. But I want to give you two quickies that you can use yourself. The first one is called a sociometric study. Sociometric. Here's how it works. Let's assume that you felt that the clergy in your area were a real influence on Social Security, as indeed they are. But you want to find out, gee, there's lots of them. I mean, who are the ones I really have to link with? All right, so here's what you do. You'd go to a kind of a sampling. You don't have to be even too scientific about this, but a sampling of clergy. I mean, don't talk to all priests or all rabbis, mix it up. And almost every town in the country, as you know, has a clergy's association, which are almost always non-denominational. Everybody who's got that job. It's kind of a trade association, for preachers. And they have these meetings. So you go to kind of a cross-section of them and you say, hey, among all of you religious leaders in the community, who are the one or two that you really have the most confidence in on subjects like Social Security or retirement or quality of life in the senior years? And they'll give you a couple of names. You collect the names from all these people and you put them in a hat, you count them up, and guess what? Certain names get mentioned by a whole lot of people. Well, those are your top opinion leaders. But in fact, everybody who got mentioned is an opinion leader at some level, otherwise they would never have been mentioned. So you got right there a shot at who are the opinion leaders within that group. Does this work? Well, what can I tell you? We have run sociometric studies for issue campaigns of entire states and come up with the name or two names of the people who ought to lead the campaign, and we win because these people just, have that kind of credibility. And so a sociometric study is something you can do if it's a known, if it's the political leaders, if it's the AARP, in other words, if it's an established organization or a group that has some cohesion, you can do a sociometric study. You can do it with medical directors, you can do it with hospital administrators. Otherwise, the other method is what I simply call working the network backwards. Here's what you do. You and a bunch of your colleagues sit down and you take this, or you draw up your own prescription for what would an opinion leader that you want to work with, what characteristics would they have? And then you sit down and you say, okay, who do we know? We're kind of plugged in around here. Who do we know that fits the characteristics? And you'll always come up with some names. And then you go out to them and you say, Mary, I know you're an opinion leader, but who else is an opinion leader? how about Peter, and then there's Jane. See, then you go to Peter and Jane, and they say, well, you know, there's so-and-so and so-and-so. It's kind of like if you've ever done any do-it-yourself work and you're trying to find the electrical wire. You know, you dig into the wall and you find the wire, and then you work it backward to the switch or the plug or the box, whatever. Well, that's what you're doing here. You've just kind of plunged into the middle of the opinion leader network, which is just like a wiring diagram, and you just work it back. And pretty soon, you've got a list of people who will probably, as you work with them, turn out to be the opinion leaders. Now, will either of these lists ever be 100% accurate? Of course not. If you got a mailing list or a media list that's 100% accurate? Of course not. Will you catch everybody? Of course not. Not the point. Can you find a critical mass of folks who can help you? And that's what these methods will do. And of course, as you work with people, you find out the ones who maybe really aren't quite as good opinion leaders. You find out they're really sterling opinion leaders, and all of them keep leading you to other opinion leaders. Both of these methods have been used thousands of times. They work, and that's how you do it. And the easiest way, I think, is just to start right with your own troops. Who do we know? And then talk to them, which is not a bad idea. Anyway, you're already making some opinion leader contacts, you see, and building those relationships for what you want to accomplish as you are expanding your network. Yes?
I understand exactly what you're talking about, and I think to some degree we're doing it in our agency, but we're on the hook for accountability now. We need to be able to measure the things we're doing, and I just don't know how we could do that.
Well, let me just tell you how. In 1979, we began to realize that the old methods of putting information out there weren't working anymore. Mass media were already not mass media. After all, in 1980, the American Demographic Association pointed out that there were no more any audiences that met the criteria to be mass, way back in 1980. Well, in 79, we began to sense this, so we came up with a concept that we call constituency relations. And it starts by identifying the opinion leaders. And then we take individuals in the organization, and not just managers, people all across the organization, and we assign them to build a relationship with these opinion leaders. Now sometimes you say, well, you know, why would an opinion leader give us any time? Well, let me tell you why. As you're making the initial approach, you say, John, we know you're an opinion leader. Then I am, says John. You see, so there's a little bit of ego in this. It's good ego. Because, you know, opinion leaders feel they want a better society and that they have this responsibility. It's not negative, but you bet I am. And, you know, we really need to get closer to our constituents out there. We just really do. And we're serious about this. We're so serious that we want to, would you spend some time with me? Implication. If you work with me, you can influence the decisions that we make, because we're going to listen to you. In fact, if we got lots of these and we're listening to all of them, that will. Isn't that the ideal organization? Is one that works with its customers, its beneficiaries, its partners, and the decisions are ones that everybody can win with? Well, so we do this, and then we set up a database. I know government, oh God, we get any databases? No, go on. We call them our key communicator database or something that's totally non-threatening, because it's not a Dickie Nixon database, it's just a communications database. Who are they? What are their issues? What are they interested in? Who has contacted them? When and what was exchanged? What materials have we sent them? Perfectly legitimate. We want to put that down. We don't want to send it to them twice. And so we work the database. And over time, it's very easy. We have new research methods. Just last year, those of us who do this kind of research finally, after 10 years of arguing, came to an agreement over how you relate, how you measure the strength of a relationship. And we already know how to measure whether or not behaviors are resulting. And so we are now going to these groups and measuring the strength of the relationship, and I can trace the increase of that relationship over time. And I can also, through that process, I can trace whether, in fact, behaviors that are mutually valuable are resulting from this. but you got to track it. You see, you can't just do it in the blue and then say, oh, let's go out and measure our relationships, because who do you measure them with? Because you don't know who has been in this relationship building process. We're doing this for DOE now at their most troubled sites, and the process is relatively easy, bearing in mind that what you're measuring in a relationship is access. You know, do they feel that they have open access when they need it? Are they willing to give us access? Have they gotten, is it just an exchange relationship, you know, where we do something for you and you do something for us, just that quid pro quo thing? Or have we built a relationship to the point where it's what we call a communal relationship, where they really come to care about the institution? And we prove that we really care about them. So it goes beyond just this exchange relationship. And we can measure all of that stuff. So, you know, if you have to be held accountable for it, the stuff is all there. And if you want to give me your card, and I'll send you a copy of the research, how you do it, what the questions are. I don't think you'll have any trouble with that. We urge all of our clients to have a formal constituency relations program. Because, see, remember what I said? It's an organized system to build relationships. Well, if you've got them in a database, and then we set the database up, we usually try to see opinion leaders maybe twice a year. You know, 6 months goes by so fast. And we try to have as many folks willing to do this. It's all volunteer, of course. And you don't have to take them to lunch or buy coffee or anything. You know, maybe somebody goes to the same church as a certain opinion leader. And so, a couple times a year after service, they just sit down over in a corner and talk. And of course, the person has to capture, you know, what's exchanged. And we give all of our key communicators messages every month. This is what you might want to say, or questions. This is what you might want to ask. We put all that in the database. Now notice what we've got. We've got a regular 12-month rolling research results of what's on the minds of our opinion leaders. It's a gyroscope. Focuses right in on where they are. And it becomes one of the key decision-making guides for our client organizations. Now the next step, after you have this, you'll love this, is to have an ambassador program. Because you see, now you're talking to the opinion leaders. But how about maybe you'll get 5 to 10% of the people in the organization that are willing to go that far, or that you want to go that far. Think of all the great people in Social Security who do wonderful work or in HICFA, but you don't want them talking outside the office. You know, it's just not their personality. It's not their skill. After all, we all have different skills, strengths and weaknesses. And so, but we still want those people to go out and talk to their family, their friends, their neighbors, the church choir, the bowling league, people who they interact with regularly and who do know them and understand them and have some confidence in them, probably. You don't stay friends with people, you know, that you have totally no confidence in. And that's what an ambassador program is. And again, none of this happens spontaneously. If you have an ambassador program and people all pledge, okay, we'll do this, that's not enough. You have to give them information all the time. You have to have some little informal trainings. I don't mean big expensive stuff. You can do it over lunch. Have a pizza lunch or a brown bag lunch. But you've got to stimulate folks. They will not do any of this spontaneously. But those are some of the ways that you can really involve opinion leaders. Now, why is this important? Why am I so sure that this will work? Well, let me just, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of data. I think I've already shown, I hope. But I think it's important that you understand 2 things about this, because you will have to consider these as you try and engage opinion leaders. The first is, you've got to remember that there are 6 languages that we use all the time to communicate. First and most powerful of all is spoken language. Now, why is that most powerful? Well, a lot of reasons. First of all, it's better